am sharing the screen. I had to write a share my screen mantra, so I have something to say while I'm sharing the screen. But here we are. So today we're going to talk about religion, magic, and this quote unquote real magic, according to Dean Radin, who's a really important thinker right now. I really like his book, Real Magic. It's just chocked full of data that's all really interesting, and a lot of statistical interpretation. And a lot of you who are in the sciences are going to be better at interpreting these things than me. I find it pretty darn convincing, though I also don't think he's talking about the same sort of magic that I talk about in my research. But let's review for a minute. Let's look at what is religion, what are magic rituals, what is fantastic magic or stage magic, and what is Radin's real magic or the magic of mental powers or psychic abilities. So to start out, what is religion? Well, religion, and this is where I continue to crib off a guy named Milford Sparrow. Religion is a critically conditioned way of interacting with culturally posited, superhuman, and invisible beings. So it's a culturally posited thing to interact in culturally positive and culturally conditioned ways with culturally positive and culturally conditioned beings that are invisible. All right, so I like to think of religion as normative, and we've talked about magic as non-normative. Well, how's magic or how's religion normative? It's normal. It's agreed upon. When you explain sort of that you're going to church and talk to the other people at the church, you all kind of agree on the same things. Now, there's always the contention that say, like, people will be like, oh, Mormons believe crazy stuff. They're not normal. No, they just have a different set of normal. But everyone within a religion has a sense of there is a right way to do things and a right way of being religious and a right way of being religious. So this is orthodoxy. So ortho, like straight, orthodontics for your teeth, ortho, straight doxy, straight doctrine, and orthopraxy, straight practice. So this normative, normal, and agreed upon social system or social construct is used to transact, and I keep saying transaction is the key, is used to transact with superhuman beings. Now, what else happens with religion as a social system? Well, it connects individuals and subgroups to larger social structures and groups. You're a member of the church contributes to society. So arguably, according to Durkheim, who we looked at a couple of times, he says that religion actually mirrors the social structure. Think of it this way. If you look at Mandarin Chinese, like classical Chinese religions, that's Confucianism, you'll see that the whole hierarchy of heaven is mapped upon and looks similar to the hierarchy of a royal court on earth. This works in two ways. One, the royal court is structured by those ideals in the heavens, and also the ideals of heavens are created by people who are establishing a court. So they're working back and forth. So it makes you wonder, if you're, say, a Christian, what is the structure of the church with the pastor and the deacons and whatnot, and how is that similar to, I don't know, maybe the U.S. government a little bit? Or if you're a Catholic, also a type of Christian, what does the role of the priest in society, in the church, mimic? Well, probably the hierarchy of angels and deities below God. I say deities because I would argue Catholicism has a remarkably polytheistic vibe, where there is one God who is a trinity, but also has all these other entities below them. So what I want you to get at here is to understand what Durkheim says, is that religion, as it's practiced and as it's thought about, mirrors our social structure, but also our social structures mirror religion. It's sort of a feedback loop. So for Durkheim, religion is society, and the superhuman beings that I argue is the key in religion, is transacting with superhuman beings, mirror political and social powers. Peter Berger, famous 20th century theologian, argued that religion is a world-building and world-transforming force. I think that's a really good way to think about it, especially as an individual. Berger said that religion is the thing and the state in which you are most ultimately concerned, the most serious thing. And I would add to that, and that this world-building, world-transforming force establishes and complicates the role of the human in the world, the human in relationship to the universe, the human in relationship to society, the individual and society. So when we're talking about religion, we often are talking about institutions, like the institutions that are clerical, as in being a priest. It's a clerical order. You do clergyman duty. The same thing could be said for a deacon or an elder or a pastor in Protestant Christianity. So you have the clerical. You also have the church, with a big T as in the and a big C as in the church as an institution. Think of the church. When somebody says the church, don't think of a building. Think about the whole institution of churches and networks of religious authority as the church. What goes on in these sort of institutionalized religions as opposed to non-institutionalized or non-organized religions? Well, you have temple services. You have permanent locations of religious places. You have set traditions. The traditions have been handed down. And here's the thing about tradition. Tradition only needs to be handed down once. So if I establish a tradition and I tell somebody about it and they start doing it, it's tradition. It goes down once. It's tradition if it goes back through time immemorial. But the point is that it's been brought from somewhere else. It's been handed down in some way. What do we also see in social structures? Well, we'll also see political engagements and the state. Religion kind of tends to make this weird argument, especially in the United States, and that religion operates separate from the state. But when you look at it, so much of the United States social structure and governmental structure is really based on Protestant understandings of the world. Just as if you look at the Catholic Church and think back in the feudal times of kings and barons and landowners and their relationships with the church and with clerics, there's a similarity there. So while we might state in the United States that the church and state are separate, the more you look at it, you'll see a lot of the state in churches and a lot of churchy stuff going on in the state. In times these days of religious nationalism and what they call Christian nationalism, this is becoming overtly clear, but it's not a new thing. I was raised in a very conservative environment in which any politician that we cared about would speak in the name of religion. And in fact, our pastors did pretty regularly tell us how to vote, even though that's totally illegal and they should actually maybe lose their tax exempt status. But that's a whole other ballgame. So in religion, you have prayer and worship toward transcendental ends. What are the transcendental ends as opposed to the pragmatic ends? Life cycles. Your first ear piercing in Hinduism, the first solid food in Hinduism, the first tonsure or hair cutting. For Protestant Christians, marriage, profession of faith, baptism. So life cycle rituals, maintenance of society. By being involved in religion and looking at the structure of religion and blessing the society we're in, religion is thought to manifest socially positive enhancements to society. Transformation of the soul in many ways, whether that's initiation or it's salvation, attaining heaven. That's a transcendental one. Reaffirming and maintaining the physical earth. We can think here about lots of rituals in Hinduism and in indigenous religions in the Americas about how there are lots of rituals to maintain the balance between humans, and also think about the balance of the rains, calling to the rains so we have proper rains and crops. Praising deities, praising anything, devotion towards deities. Also, general prosperity for everyone, nothing specific, and warding off general bad luck. So God bless America. All right, so that's religion.